Well, look at you. I want to tell you about the leaders I work with. They are very smart. They are incredibly well-meaning, and most of them are really forward-looking.
Okay.
But they are absolutely stuck in the narrow band of their own intelligence. Their minds tend to run on the same tracks, through the same patterns. Even their blue sky thinking goes to the same well-worn metaphors and imaginative landscapes. Now, this works perfectly, absolutely perfectly, if they're encountering situations like the ones they've encountered before. But as we all know, more and more, that's not the case. The nature of change itself has changed. Everything has changed, including the nature of change itself. So change is now pervasive, perpetual, and exponential. Pervasive, meaning it's happening in multiple places of your work and your life at the same time. Perpetual, meaning it's change after change after change after change after change after change without a break. And exponential. You've probably heard it said that the pace of change will never be slower than it is today. That should scare the hell out of you. It does me. We are in a time of rapid change. And not just change. Everything has gone exponential. Everything looks like these hockey stick graphs. You know, it's going along like this and all of a sudden, shoo. So biodiversity loss and species extinction, shoo. Climate catastrophes and megastorms. The rise of exponential technology like AI. Burnout and depression, just to name a few. With these hockey stick graphs in this age of acceleration we're in, come the knock-on effects of mass migration, political and societal volatility, the rise of extremism, and all of this underneath, fueled by economic systems that run on growth at all costs and still incentivize us to make decisions that devastate the planet, the one thing we all rely on for our very survival. So I bring up this planetary level context because it is the business context we all share. And it is the generator of many of these constant and turbulent changes that keep coming one after the other after the other. So I ask myself the question, and the question I want to lift up to you all is, what would it take for us to be a match for the environment we're already in? Now, the answer to that question is as unique as each individual leader, as each one of you, because you have been through a whole lifetime of experiences, and those experiences have created shaping inside of you, conditioned tendencies that run much of your beliefs, much of your thinking, much of your behavior. So that's what we're working with, and that's why it's unique and individual. And still, over time, I have found out that future fit leaders upskill themselves in 3 specific areas. They expand their cognitive toolkit. They deepen their emotional toolkit, and they create flow through their energetic toolkit. Expand, deepen, flow. Do it with me just a couple times. Expand, deepen, and flow. So you know where we're going first, right? Expand, right? The idea of expanding our cognitive toolkit means that we train ourselves to take on more and more perspectives. We actively solicit competing information, and above all else, we do not believe everything we think. Instead, we take an objective view on our own meaning making, the way we make meaning of the world and the business situations it serves up. And this objective view allows us to see the patterns of our thinking. It allows us to go, do I still need this one, or does it need to shift? We're able to interrupt those autopilot patterns and choose patterns that are much more resourceful. Much more resourceful. So this seems pretty straightforward. I mean, even objective and like somewhat scientific, and you would think that it would be pretty easy to do this. So why don't we do this more often? One really good reason are our emotional responses. So we have to deepen the emotional toolkit. So what this means is that we can be with whatever happens, especially when it's that thing you wish didn't happen, which is going to come up more and more and more, because I want to very lovingly break this to you. More of what we do not want is in the forecast. So we have to deepen our emotional toolkit to be with it, whatever happens, whatever comes. All right. There is a whole big toolbox in the emotional toolkit, lots of tools, lots of great ideas, and I just want to offer to you one. It starts with this notion that emotions are energy in motion. Emotions are energy in motion. They want to move. They want to move through our bodies, but we spend so much time trying to not feel things that they get stuck. Now, most people are terrified to feel their emotions, especially when it's coming up in a situation that you didn't want, that you wish didn't happen. Especially those ones that are a little more challenging, like anger or despair or frustration. But let's just check this out. See what you think. If you allow yourself to fully feel an emotion, how long do you think it will last? There is actually an answer to this. Are you ready? You might be surprised. It will last for 60 to 90 seconds. Seconds. Mere seconds. So, what we do in the emotional toolkit is learn how to recognize that we're having an emotion and key into the sensation of the emotion in the body. And when we do that, we notice that the emotion is actually already in motion. It's changing. It's moving through our body in different ways. And once we can allow it to move through, the sensation is no longer grabbing us anymore. We can separate the sensation of the emotion from the story that's creating it. From the thought, emotion, thought, emotion, thought, emotion, thought, emotion loop we get ourselves in. And when we do that, something incredibly powerful happens. Now we can ask the question, what is the intelligence in this emotion? What is the input it's trying to give me for the situation at hand? What's the pearl of wisdom? Or in other words, how is this emotion right? Now, this is information you would not have access to any other way. People will say, you shouldn't use emotions to make business decisions. Fair enough. I don't think emotions alone are enough to make business decisions, and I certainly don't think unprocessed emotions are a good source of reliable information. But just imagine that you actually have these very simple tools to do what I just talked about, and that you could get intelligence from the emotions that you would have never had otherwise. Now that seems like a competitive advantage to me. Okay, future fit leaders, what do? Come on, everyone. They expand their cognitive toolkit, deepen their emotional toolkit. What's next? Flow. Flow through their emotional toolkit. Okay. energetic toolkit. The energy body. Everyone, it's right here. Do this. This is your energy body. It's right around your physical body. And here's the thing. You know how to detect it already. Because you say things like, I don't know what's wrong with him today. He's just off. Or, man, this team is so low energy. Or conversely, they are hyped. Right? So you already know how to key in to your energetic toolbox. Like the emotional toolbox, the energetic toolbox is full of really useful information, very straightforward tools, and very, very powerful. And we as leaders are just reaping the benefits of these now. So I want to offer you one such tool. It is the ability to consciously choose the leadership energy that will best serve the situation at hand. The leadership energy that if you come from this energy as you're doing your work, things could go really well or not so well. So if you're coming from, for example, possibility or curiosity, it could really be a big benefit. In fact, even a force multiplier. If you're coming from an energy of disappointment or forcing or aggression, well, you know what happens. There's no faster way to shut down a room. Right? Now, it's more than just changing your attitude. It is the very cells of your body responding to and resonating with the energy that you are explicitly moving through your body, and you know what happens because that ripples out to everyone else. It is a really powerful thing to do because coming from a resourceful energy can change everything about what happens. So let's just take an example. So the example is a leader, and this leader is getting ready to be in a very important meeting. In fact, let's just pretend you're this leader. You're getting ready to be in this very important meeting, and you're pretty frustrated about it because you've had meeting after meeting after meeting about this, and you just want progress to be made. Right? If you were my coaching client, I would show you a list of leadership energies, and I'd say, okay, which of these have you been coming from so far? And you would look at the list and you go, okay, logic, discipline, yeah, and Lyssa, if I'm really honest, a little bit of forcing. I'm just so exhausted from these people not getting anything done. And I'd be like, fair, that's fair. I mean, that's real. That's real people, right? We'd have a conversation. We talk about the upside of coming from these energies, because of course there's upside, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. And the conversation would naturally segue to the downside, because that's what they do. So having explored both the upside and the downside, you can see now that you're coming from a sort of restricted energy, and you can now start to see your part in maybe this not going as well as you hoped. So you see that your energy has been sort of like a kink in the garden hose. You know, when there's a kink in the garden hose, the water can't flow out. And in our case, we're talking about possibilities. Possibilities can't flow out. So having talked about the upside and the downside, and having seen maybe a little bit of your part in how this has not been going well, you are ready to choose a more resourceful leadership energy. So you look at the list again, and you say, I don't know why, but vitality and depth are jumping out at me, and I'm like, great, let's go with it. Let's go with vitality and depth. Okay? And talking about if you were to come from vitality, what you start to see is that your own vitality has been waning a bit as you've lost the mojo for this thing that you used to care so much about. And that is important to the company. It's important to everything you're doing. You start to imagine what happens if you could come from the genuine essence energy of vitality. You can see yourself talking in this next meeting in a totally different way, reconnecting people to why this is important, and imagining that they will want to move because they see you being revitalized. At the same time, our conversation has had you realize that there's some depth to this topic that you have been avoiding, and by extension, you've been unconsciously giving your leadership team the permission to avoid it too. And now you're thinking, wow, maybe they don't trust that this is going to work out well because we haven't gone to the depth of it. So with vitality on board, you are now feeling safe and brave enough to bring up the murky depth of the topic. So, vitality and depth. You come into this meeting, you're coming from these energies. What you do, what you say changes. How you show up is changing. Definitely the energy rippling out to everyone else is completely different. And you come to me and you say, Lyssa, I cannot believe it. Something so simple has changed everything. This is just one of the tools in the energetic toolbox. So I am really obsessed with this line of inquiry. What would it take for us to be future fit? What would it take for us to be a better match for the environment we're actually already in? What would it take for us to create win-win-win situations? Our organization wins. Our suppliers and partners and customers, even our competitors win. And more importantly, the ecosystems of which we're a part, including future generations, also wins. Future fit is a bit of a misnomer because it sounds like we have time to become future fit. From my point of view, skilling ourselves to become future fit is something that is a call right here, right now. So, how do we do it? You know, expand, deepen, and flow. Muito obrigada.